So we talk about media and content, and you've been in it forever. You started at HBO. What was that like? Way back?
You know, it's an amazing company. The interesting thing is I went back last week. They made some news last week about HBO Go over the top. And I happened to be in New York, and I called my friend Richard Plepler, who is now the CEO. He and I started 2 days apart in 1989.
And he's the CEO now.
He's now the CEO. The craziest thing is I walked into the lobby, and the same security guard is there. And he actually recognized me. He's like, where have you been for the last 17 years? And it's an amazing company. It's the best group of people, I think, of the company. I've worked at a lot of really great companies, but it was really a family in the late 80s and early mid-90s. We were rocking and rolling, and money was pouring in, still pouring in at HBO.
So why was it pouring in back?
Oh, well, and, you know, you had a great model where cable operators would pay you, 50-ish% of what it was $10 a month. Now it's a lot higher. Your programming costs were not. It was that and Showtime. Showtime was much smaller then. HBO was the 800-pound gorilla and was a unique service. It really spoke to how important unique content is. And if you looked at the playbook 3 years ago that Netflix was starting to play out, it looked just like HBO in the 80s and 90s. And obviously worked for Netflix. But it really, there was a strategy, there was good people, there was talent. They spent twice as much on quality programming as else. And it paid off and great marketing. Everybody who remembers HBO, new movie every Saturday night. How many people raise their hand if you know their tagline? It's not TV, it's HBO, right? And it really resonated, and it was unique. And it's something to learn. When I got to Yahoo and took over the media group there, I had Michael.
Between the spots.
Michael Fuchs, who was the CEO of HBO, who really drove original programming and marketing, and was, I think, one of the most dynamic guys in the media business, and super tough. I had him come in and speak to my programming team and just talk about the philosophy of how important unique stories were. And I think it's completely overlooked in today's day and age of listicles and, who's on Facebook? How many people are sick of, you won't believe what happened next after the girl ran into the cat? If I see one more headline like that, I may disengage from Facebook. Like the importance and the difficulty in great storytelling in media is completely underrated. And it used to be something that I preached at Yahoo. I mean, I think it's super hard to build great code. I really do. I think building code that matters and performs well is really hard. And it's really hard to build great programming. Like, create stories that resonate with consumers, whether it's 30 seconds if you're in the advertising business, 90 seconds, short form if you're on YouTube. I think if you're doing theatrical releases or television shows, I think it is really hard to build great programming, and it's completely undervalued by Silicon Valley, just as how hard it is to build, just build that app, it's easy. It's really hard to do,
So what was it like, who recruited at News Corp? Because you worked for Rupert, so how many years was that?
7.
Yeah. So what was that like?
News Corp is a great company. It's a dynamic company. It very much reflects its leaders. I was there for a couple of years in the sports group, running FoxSports.com, and I worked for a guy named David Hill, and Randy Freer, who are David's this big, loud, brilliant Australian. Who just probably the most creative and dynamic sports producer. He invented so many things that we take for granted today on sports telecasts. He was always pushing the envelope, so he just gave me incredible running room. And nobody cared about digital at News Corp in 2002. But they let me sort of run with it. And by the time late 04 came around and digital was starting to become important again after the crash, Rupert took an interest in it, and I got to spend a lot of time with him and Peter Chernin and others there. And they are, probably the most dynamic risk takers in the media business. Rupert will, a little more controlled these days than he was in the 80s, but they'll take chances to push the envelope. And I fully expect something pretty big to come out of them in the next 2 years. I don't know what it is, but it's a pretty cool place. But, you know, it's a place where lions eat their young. I mean, you got to be, you know, you got to be pretty tough inside those walls. It's a great training ground, and I learned a lot from that experience.
And then from Newspaper, you get recruited to Yahoo?
Yeah, I got a phone call and from a recruiter, and I flew up to. They had, interestingly enough, they recruited me to run the Americas, which in Yahoo world, the Americas is about 75-80% of Yahoo's business. And I was a late entry into this race for the job. And I didn't know they had already actually hired somebody else. They had offered somebody else the job when I went in for this last interview, and it turned out well for me. And I ended up keeping the guy they hired to work with me. But it was a quick literally 7 days, like from first meeting to offer.
And where did you start at Yahoo?
I ran the Americas.
What does that mean?
I ran all revenue, media, content, marketing, you know, sales. I didn't run product. That was run by a guy named Blake Irving, who some of you may know is running GoDaddy now, doing an amazing job. They're ex-Microsoft guy. But for my territories, North America, South America, Latin America, those businesses rolled up to me.
And you travel all the time?
Yeah, you know, 98% of the time. Yeah, it was really tough. And it was tumultuous. You know, Carol Bartz was the CEO who, you know, love her or hate her. I loved her. She was a straight shooter and, you know, fun to hang with and very global CEO type. You know, really thought globally. And then, you know, that ended for her, I think, in September of 2011. And we had an interim period, and then Scott Thompson came in, and he made me head of global media, which meant I took over media for the whole company.
Did he allow you to make up a resume?
Scott had a resume problem. And then that ended for him in May of 12, and they made me interim CEO, and then Melissa came in.
So what's interesting, it should be a lesson for traders, investors, and entrepreneurs, because I am a cold call cowboy. And Yahoo went through, I remember calling Carol and saying, you should look at Stocktoberfest and using my network to get there and nothing. And I remember calling Scott, using my network, and I just warned myself.
And had you known the connection, you idiot.
So the first time I met Ross, this is an embarrassing moment, but a good lesson. Mark Mullen, who introduced us, is here as a great VC and friend in Los Angeles. You got to meet, and this is how writing matters too. I wrote a post about how I wanted to sell my Uber stock, and I had met Ross. Mark at a soccer game with Ross, and Ross said, "Oh, I don't want to buy that stock from him." And so we set up a golf game for Ross and I to play. And the first thing Ross said to me is, "Why didn't you fucking call me? I would have bought stock for it in a minute." So always make the call, right? Like
you know the line: shy salespeople have skinny kids.
If I had been trained by Ross, I might have made that call. So Ross, that was a great line, great lesson. Not as bad as his Yahoo story. So can you talk about Yahoo?
Yeah, sure. What do you want to know?
So what was like the 48 hours leading up to the change at the end?
You know, it was interesting. I think one of the things I'm pretty good at is reading a room, and you know, in sales, really in the communications business, I think the most important trait, certainly as a seller, certainly as a programmer, certainly as somebody who's running a business, is the ability to listen. And you know, I've been in rooms where the air gets sucked out by people making presentations. They just don't take the time to listen. So I think I'm pretty good at listening. And I would tell you the board was incredible with me. They gave me the job in May, and they said, run this like you're going to run the company forever. Do what you would do if you're the permanent CEO. And to their word, they let me do. I hired people. I fired people. I did deals with, you know, we had,
CNBC.
well, we did a deal with CNBC. We did Interclick. I took over. We had three big problems. We had a major problem in search. You know, we were at war with Microsoft. We had sued Facebook for patent infringement. And Alibaba was not very happy with us. And people forget that a year or so earlier, they had taken Alipay out of the Yahoo joint venture. All that, just moved it into a separate company and told us afterwards. And the Chinese government came out and said, we're not sure that an American company should own such a large stake in a Chinese company, which basically was a threat that said, you guys are screwed. So I came in, we solved all three of those problems, and the board was fully supportive. I would have told you the weekly, I'd gone through the process, I would have told you up until about Wednesday that I had the job. And I went into a strategy session, a board presentation on Thursday, and I walked out of the room and I said to my senior team that had gone in with me, I said, I don't have a job. I'm not getting it. Because the room had changed over from one day to the next, and I said, I'm not getting it. There's somebody else, I don't know who it is. I went to Sun Valley to the Allen & Company conference. I was with, all the big shots from Silicon Valley. Oh, you're getting it. I'm like, I'm not getting it. And they're like, no, you're getting it. We would know. Some famous guy. Oh, I would know. If you're not getting it, I would know. But I said, I'm not getting it. And I went home Sunday, and I was on the phone we were in the middle of doing a deal with Google that never got consummated. And a friend of mine said, at Google, said, oh, you hear Marissa interviewed for the job? And I said, no, I hadn't heard Marissa. And I knew then it was her. And so the next day when the earnings call was Tuesday of that week, and I was prepping Monday, and I was sitting in a room full of people prepping, and they're like, Ross, you're not paying attention. I'm like, I'm not going to be on the earnings call. They're like, what are you talking about? And after that prep, I walked in my office, and the chairman came in, and he said, you've done a great job, but we're going another direction. I said, oh, Marissa, right? He goes, how'd you know? We kept it a secret. I go, I sort of got a tip last night. So, we've all been around. We've been around a long time. I mean, the ups and downs in life are just part of the game, and I've tried to stay sort of level, and I look at every experience as a new one and an interesting one, and it led to a new chapter in my life, and it's great.
There's so much, I think we should open it to questions. I think we could go on and on, but I think the important lesson is Ross is very humble and a good guy, and he knows so much about the future. I would just, one last question, we're 2014, Netflix is 380, 90, HBO's cooking, we hate Facebook in many ways, like you say.
I don't hate Facebook.
Company in the world, like some of the stuff this morning.
Yeah.
In the stream.
They're fixing it. I mean, they are fixing it.
No, they're not letting mushrooms grow, but where are we in 5 years in this digital space?
Yeah.
Does TV make a bigger comeback? Is digital too small?
Yeah, the thing that I'll tell you a couple of things. I like the position. I always like the position of differentiation. So we've been calling. I remember going on stage in 1999. I was working at a company called Sportsline, a sports site, and CBS had bought us, and we had or invested in us. We've been hearing in 1999 about the death of broadcast television. That was the rage. Guess what? It's still around, and it's still.
I think has 700 posts.
Yeah, it's still super important. So things are never as rosy or as bad, I think, and it's true for executives and companies. I mean, Twitter got hammered last night. I think you just got to try to stay level. Marissa, had an incredible run for a while, and then the last couple of months she's been hammered. You just got to try to stay level. I think it's a great time to be in the premium content business. I think as I said, it's really hard to do. There's a lot of demand for it. You've got Amazon, Netflix, Apple, Google, Yahoo, Hulu, and dozens of others who are out there with checkbooks. God knows what's coming over from China. It says Alibaba's interested, LETV is interested. There's a run on MCNs right now. I was on the board of Drama Fever until last week. SoftBank bought it. You've seen Maker go. You've seen Fullscreen go. I think you'll see a couple others get sold. It's a great time to be in the premium content business. I like the position of Comcast a lot. I like the position of HBO a lot. I like the position of anybody who spends billions of dollars creating content. What baffles me, and it was one of my pet peeves at Yahoo, and I was listening to Dick Costello last night on the Twitter conference call, it is so hard, and Facebook too, so hard to create audience and so hard to create brand. And there's got to be something in the air in Silicon Valley that makes the companies that are up there go, oh, we're not a media company, we're a technology company, we're a platform company. Dick and Marissa had this, I couldn't believe it. Dick was like, we want to be all about daily habits, which is exactly what Marissa, I don't even know what that means. Like what daily habit is, I brush my teeth. I mean, and when exactly did media not become sexy? Like, media is the sexiest business in the world, and most of the Valley companies run from it. Now, the guys who figured it out, that the interesting blend between technology and content, right? Can you personalize it? Can you target it just like you're targeting advertising? That, if you figure that out, as Netflix has, as Apple has, right? We were talking last night, gosh, the day that Apple writes the check for, who was I sitting next to? I was sitting next to you. Who's on the other side of me? No. Anyway, we're talking about Dan Nathan. Yeah, we're talking about the day that Apple pulls out the checkbook and writes a check to a big-time director or a big-time actor to develop a show when the world changes. They can do anything they want. And Google's sitting there too, right? They're sort of embracing the new generation. Yeah, you can buy anything. So I wonder what big media companies are waiting for. And I wonder what those who haven't dove in are waiting for, because really Netflix and Apple are the two who figured it out in different ways. Apple's figured it out just to be the platform and take 30 points or more. And Netflix has figured out we'll be the distributor of the platform and steal the HBO playbook and start creating our own. And because we know more about the people who are watching, and that's the secret about the HBO deal. HBO knows nothing about its consumer. Well, now they're going to start to, which will make them incredibly more powerful. So I see, you say, what's the next 5 years? Next 5 years is that this is all going to converge, and I mean, I'm glad I'm still around to watch it and hopefully be part of it in some way.
So, open up one more question. You have kids.
Yeah.
They don't like my stock tips because they get my email. What do you buy for them, if anything? Do you buy, is it Google? Is it Apple? Is it
stock?
Netflix?
What stock do I buy for them? Well, if it was up to my 6-year-old, I would have bought Minecraft. He doesn't understand what Microsoft is. He said, "Daddy, why don't you buy Minecraft?"
Microsoft, that was a great acquisition.
So he now knows what. I thought it was actually pretty smart, and they did it with money outside the U.S., so it's basically free. I absolutely buy Google. I mean, having competed against them and their position in the advertising and data space is unparalleled. I don't care how many driverless cars or flying drones, whatever else they're playing with, doesn't matter. And it's why I said this to Marissa before I left. I was like, the big difference between Yahoo and Google is there's no money tree downstairs. Google, you have that money tree. Like, what? I was like, just spits out money. That ad business spits out money, and they are so well positioned, and they will do whatever it takes. Forget the don't be evil thing. They will do whatever it takes to maintain that position, and they are really good at it and really smart people, and it works.
And one more, is it HBO and Netflix?
Well, you can't buy HBO. You can't. I mean, if HBO was a tracking stock, I'd buy HBO. Netflix, I like Netflix a lot. I think Reed, the great difference between Silicon Valley company and a Hollywood or a New York-based media company is Reed isn't focused so much on quarterly earnings. He's saying, I may or may not make money for the next 5 years. It doesn't matter. I'm going to build my audience, which is Bezos' thing too. HBO, we got to, Time Warner got to hit that quarter, and I think Jeff has managed Time Warner exceedingly well from an operating standpoint. But, I'd love to see them invest. I'd love to see all the media companies really start investing again. I think they were burned a little bit in the first 2 cycles of the internet, and so they're being a lot more cautious.
Take 3 or 4 questions, and we're going to move on to one more piece, and then Michael, obviously. And then Ross is hanging out for a little bit more, and as we walk for lunch, we can chat with them. Michael.
Ross, given your 5-year game plan, Netflix, HBO, can you touch a little bit on the infrastructure? There's a big net neutrality debate, etc. Is it basically content-sponsored bandwidth, Netflix, etc., or do you think very soon we see Netflix on a Comcast cable channel, Apple TV? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm waiting for Apple to really make the move right now. I don't know if it's going to be a give away a free TV, but embedded in it is software, and we're going to bust the cable bundle. Last week was pretty seminal. I mean, it got written about a lot, but I don't think it's been truly embraced. I mean, CBS and HBO not really breaking the bundle, but toe out direct to consumer. I think is a big deal because my 6 and 12-year-old kids have no idea from cable and no idea from television. They know from shows and channels and YouTube and Hulu and Netflix. And the real difference, I think, that exists today is that the ability to distribute is so much, there's no barrier. You and I can start a cable channel, nobody would watch it. But you and I could start a show and put it up and we could have 1 million viewers. I was talking to Michelle, who knows Michelle Phan? Okay, more you should, but all your kids do, or if you have a teenage girl. Michelle Phan is a personality on YouTube, but she's got 7 million subscribers, single person. She's got, according to a story I read this morning, she got $84 million business. She did a deal with L'Oreal, did a deal with Endemol, did a deal with a music label. She's built a media business off of the platform on YouTube, and if you could copy that, that to me is the essence of where we're headed to a generation of people out there. The band, first of all, I think whatever it costs to get bandwidth into the home, and Comcast, Time Warner, if that happens, they're the biggest provider in this country. Whatever that costs, people are going to pay, and if they pass that charge on to you and me, frankly, don't care, right? And the other thing is, those big phones now, if you got a Plus, if you got an iPhone 6, you don't even care. Like, you're getting it everywhere. I'm sitting on my couch Sunday night, I'm watching the last Boardwalk Empire, and in my hand is my phone, and I got to tell you, it was probably the best episode of the series. I won't spoil it. But I'm watching Boardwalk Empire up here, and I'm watching the Packers game in my lap, right? And I'm alternating on my phone to my pay-for fantasy game that I'm trailing in because I can't believe that Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing more touchdowns, right? So I'm an old guy relative to my kids, but I'm multitasking on multiple devices.
That is a beautiful thing. Yes, in the back. No, you, Panda.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, $1 billion, people forget Hulu's. I was at News Corp when we started Hulu, and it started in a conversation between Larry Kramer, who's now the publisher of president of USA Today, Les Moonves, Peter Chernin, and me. And the concept was, let's pool our entertainment assets because, we're going to be under attack from other people, and if we pool them, we'll have more strength in the market. Nobody would have predicted in 6 years, that it would be where it is. It's a $1 billion business, right? And I think Jason Kyler deserves a ton of credit. It baffled me. I went to News Corp. I went to see Chase and Rupert. When I got to Guggenheim, I said, I hear you're going to sell Hulu. Definitely interested, but I don't understand why you're selling Hulu. You finally got something right in digital. I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. It puts us at odds with the cable operators. Well, they came around, came to their senses. I think it's completely in their hands. And it goes back to what I said about Netflix. If the media companies who were in Hulu embraced that thing 110% and didn't care about the impact it was having to their quarterly number, I think Hulu, with the differentiated product that sits on it, could be a monster. But they're not fully there yet. Will they get there? I don't know. But if they fully said, we're 1,000% in, we're going to use Hulu as our Netflix, and for current day-and-date programming, that is the place that a new generation will get it. We're going to market the hell out of it. We're going to do user acquisition. We're going to do user testing. We're going to do sentiment testing. We're going to know what people like. We're going to change things on the fly. We're going to use the viewing habits, and adjust the programming. That thing is a monster, because where else are you getting that programming? Who else is spending $1 million an episode for a drama, or $250,000 for a short? Like, they have the capital and the experience and the expertise to do it. I don't see that they're there yet. I wish they were, but it opens the door for others. The problem with selling it, and this was the hang-up in the sale, the problem with selling it is they didn't want to commit to long-term deals. And so would you go spend $1 billion or $2 billion or $3 billion for a platform that could be an empty jukebox in 2 years? No. I mean, you've got to have some guarantee of the program.
One more, and then, we could all talk all day, so there's so much more trend stuff today. So, yeah, is there a woman over there? Who would let a woman in? Jen? Go ahead. It's an unfair question, reporter girl.
I got asked that same question about Tumblr 2 summers ago, right after they did it. And look, I would not have bought Tumblr. There's nothing.
What about Yelp?
Depends on the price. But
Should I have her removed?
no, not at all. I think Tumblr, look, I think Karp and those guys deserve a ton of credit. I spent some time with them when I left Yahoo, and I thought they built an amazing thing. But my focus at Yahoo was about premium content. I would have bought Hulu, I would have bought Vivo, I would have bought things, I would have done deals that strategically put Yahoo in a different place. I believed that it was a media company that had technology to grow it. I didn't believe that we were
Back to what you said.
we weren't going to, like, I don't know, it's really hard to build the next Facebook. There's only one Facebook. And what drove me mad about Yahoo when I got there, and I spent 2+ years pounding the table on it publicly and privately in the company, was, guys, I've been in the internet business for 15 years. Do you know how hard it is to build the #1 website in any category? And we're sitting here with 15 of the top 17 categories with the #1 or 2 site, and oh yeah, that's whatever. I got there, there was this was 2010, there was one mobile engineer, one, on Yahoo Fantasy, the #1 fantasy product in the world, one. I was like, where are the resources? Oh, you got 4,000 engineers. What are they doing? Pet projects, right? I said, this is an amazing company. People are nuts I went there. I was like, this is an amazing company because it's got incredible brands, incredible platform, incredible audience, and let's embrace the fact that we're #1. And instead of having 3 writers in finance, let's have 30, and we could own the finance world. Same with sports, same with news, same with lifestyle, women, food, pick it. And that to me, I thought was a great business, right? Search, we weren't in search anymore. We had sold out to Microsoft, and email, which is the thing that drives Yahoo on the desktop, was eroding. So where could we win? I thought we could win in media. I think Marissa came, I think she came in, she got so much energy because of who she is, her force of personality, her reputation. I think it really helped the company. I think she both recruited and she really got the board to support her doing all these acquisitions, these acqui-hires. So forget Tumblr for a second. I thought Flurry was actually a good deal. I think the first year she did great, and I think the second year, I think she hit some rough patches. We're right at that moment. I mean, I think the market celebrated that they were up 1%. I think it's tough to look at that and go, it's hard to get excited about 1%, but, stem the losses, so that's good. I think she's on a tightrope right now, honestly. I don't mean that negatively. I mean, she's either going to get her footing and really say, this is who we are, this is where we're going. And I think she has a strategy. We just haven't, fully heard it yet. Or I think she's going to fall off. And I think, Yahoo's such a big company that one person doesn't make that big a difference. I thought Carol did great things. Scott had his own vision. I had a vision. She's got a vision. And it's a $4.5 billion business, great. If we create a new app, a new wonderful app that does $100 million of revenue next year and $20 million of EBITDA, it's irrelevant, right? I change one unit on the homepage and could blow that to smithereens. And so you got to keep that in context. All that said, she has done, I think, more for Yahoo, because of who she is, and she's really got incredible tech cred and a personality, and people like to listen to her. I think it's in her next 2 years are really super important, and she was right. She came in, she said, I need 4 years, and she's right. So we'll see. We're right at that moment. I still think it's a great company. The stock's running, I can't figure out Wall Street. The core numbers were okay. Twitter's core numbers were great. I mean, relative to the market, the ad market's up 17% year over year. Yahoo's up 1%. Display's down 5%. Twitter beats it, right? And they're getting hammered. And I think there's a lot of optimism about a tax-efficient play with, that's the whole business, right? Tax efficient play with Alibaba. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We looked at it every which way to Sunday. Like, how could we, and, you know, it's a tough one.
I think what's exciting is we can sit here and actually in this room have an armchair quarterbacking is what's fun.
Yeah.
Actually, Ross is in at the table, and a lot of us in the room are at the table.
The one last thing I'll say about, you know, everybody wants to be a quarterback on, is the CEO, is Dick Costolo doing a good job, is Marissa doing a good job? You can't understand how hard those jobs are. The stuff that's coming at you, it's 24 hours a day. You know, she has publicly, I don't sleep 4 hours. I totally get it. Like, there's, 14,000 employees. Dick's got offices in, 27 countries. They are really hard jobs, and I think, frankly, it's a bit unfair to be taking shots at CEOs if their company's doing well or bad. It's really hard to run any major global type of company. It really is.
And you trained Adam Bain, who's now...
He's a rock star. Adam is the head of sales, the president of revenue at Twitter. He is, if I ever started a company, Adam's my #1 draft pick. He'd probably start the company. He'd start the company hiring me. You got me helping you now, right?
From before Adam and after.
Well, he's younger than you, yeah. He's not as good a golfer.
On that, we're locking you down for 15 minutes because Amazon is sponsoring a friend, and we're going to go to lunch with them after, and Ross will walk with us. But my good friend Dave Chappelle, not the comedian, the white guy, the best name in the cloud, is so great to have in our industry as they explore fintech and all the companies in this room and all the people that trade. Amazon changing the way we're going to be able to do business, whether it's Robinhood or Savior or Wealthfront. We all look up to Amazon and the fintech stuff coming. So give it up for Dave.